Hey y'all, welcome to part 2 of this week's special 2-part episode. I'm Kat.
And I'm Michelle, and we're joined again by GlyterPixie, or known as Steph. Thank you so much for hanging out with us again, and we can't wait to hear more about your experience at the SDEC a couple weeks ago.
Glad to be here.
All right, so what is the SDEC?
The SDEC is the State Democratic Executive Committee. It's essentially the governing body of the Alabama Democratic Party, made up by the officers and then 210 elected members from across the state, and as well as at-large or diversity caucuses.
What do they do? What is the purpose of them at the state level?
They essentially decide how the Democratic Party operates in Alabama, from how the party spends its money to how candidates get supported and what kind of support that they receive. They also set the rules for candidates qualifying to run as Democrats in Alabama, and they are responsible for building the statewide infrastructure that Democrats need to get elected. Voter engagement, party outreach, fundraising, messaging, candidate training, and candidate recruiting, most importantly. And they also decide what the party stands for in an official capacity and what issues the Alabama Democratic Party fights for.
So, y'all meet annually, right?
That I'm still trying to figure out. They met twice that I know of in 2025. One was in May and then one more recently in November. So it looks like they're meeting twice a year, though there's been a lot of back and forth and infighting among the SDC members about meetings.
Ooh, give us the tea. What happened?
Yeah, so basically when the meeting was set to start, we all kind of showed up. I am not part of the SDC. I just attend the meetings. I am part of the Mobile County Democrats. And that's how I find out when these meetings are happening, because they don't publicize anything. But the meeting was set to start, and it was very clear that there were not enough members present to meet quorum. Quorum is kind of the set amount of people that you have to be able to vote and have a meeting to begin with.
And that's just like any governing body. Even HOAs require that.
Exactly. And I believe quorum for this meeting was 92. And there were obviously way less than 92. So rather than adjourn the meeting, reschedule it, try to get more people there, the executive board held an impromptu executive board meeting where they nominated and appointed people to the SDC only for vacancies that were uncontested. They only nominated enough to meet quorum, and they only nominated people that they had pre-selected to nominate. There were plenty of other vacant seats. We had a Democratic Socialist member with us who was part of the Democratic Party and able to step into one of these seats. He didn't get called up because he wasn't hand-selected by the executive board.
So in other words, they were just stacking the deck in their favor to get whatever their agenda was pushed through.
That is exactly what happened. The group of people that are in charge of the SDC are very good at doing that and have been doing that for decades. This isn't a new fight. That's what a lot of people don't realize. So rather than adjourn the meeting, they kind of filled those vacancies, and then they began the SDC meeting and called a vote to legitimize what they had just done. And the people voting on whether or not they should be there were the ones they nominated.
It's like starting a club and then immediately electing yourself as the president of it.
Yeah, exactly.
After stacking everybody with your friends, so we're going to say yay for you.
Oh, so basically like the White House?
And what's so weird is they did not break any bylaws. They followed the letter of the bylaws when doing this. The bylaws they had obviously voted in. But, it really seems like the spirit of the law was completely broken.
That matters. That, so surprisingly enough, matters a lot, and it's the intention behind it, because it'd be different if they filled all the uncontested vacancies, but the fact they stopped once they got through their list and didn't continue filling them speaks volumes, and that right there is wrong.
And once they called for the vote to legitimize what they had done, there was some back and forth over whether quorum was met. I don't see how it ever could have been met because those people were not part of the SDEC meeting. But they called for a vote to legitimize it, and the people who disagreed with what they had done walked out to break quorum. They were like, no, we're not standing for this. And they got up and they walked out. And the meeting just continued. They voted on a bylaw change that set quorum even lower than what it already is.
But none of it's legal then. You can lose all your funding and everything when you don't.
Yeah, well, the SDC in the past 5, 6 years has been sanctioned 4 times, has lost funding one of those times. And this is something that can cause them to lose funding again. At the last meeting we were at, there was a whole lot of issue with the way they ran that meeting. A lot of people were nominated and voted in. And then later the DNC came back and said, that's not how this works. You'll have to redo it. And one of those members was nominated again this time and declined the nomination because of the legalities of it. She knew it would be overturned again. And she's one who's actually trying to unify the Democratic Party. Yeah, I love Alex. She is a fighter. She's from Coleman County.
Is that the girl who just ran for office up there?
She did. The fact that she got any votes at all speaks volumes in Coleman, Alabama.
When she announced it on TikTok, the entire comment section was just like, ooh, you're brave.
You know, but we need break.
I think she is a good example of it doesn't matter whether you think you're going to win or not. It's important that you get out there and you run. Every race should be contested. The Democratic Party, the SDEC, should be making sure every single race goes contested. Part of their job is to recruit.
Sometimes you just expect you're probably going to get your butt whooped. But it was about the action. It was about stepping up to the plate because maybe your bravery then inspires somebody else next time to step up and then another person to step up. And that kind of keeps that momentum going. And I think that's what we desperately need. So props to her.
And that's what she's done for a lot of people. I wasn't ever considering running for office. I was just going to keep doing my activism until I saw her run.
If she can run in Coleman, there's a lot of things I can do.
Exactly. Why do you think this happened?
This has been a long time battle and a long time in the making. This dates back to Joe Reed.
Who is Joe Reed?
Joe Reed was the previous chair of the SDEC. Now, Randy Kelly, who is a friend of Joe Reed's, is the chair, but Joe Reed essentially runs the Alabama Democratic Party. Things happen the way he wants them to happen. And my friend told me Joe Reed is the definition of either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. Joe Reed is an icon in the civil rights movement. Joe Reed should have all of the respect in the world from every Democrat in Alabama. Essentially took his fear of Dixiecrats versus progressives so far that he has completely destroyed the Democratic Party. He won't even let actual progressives in because they're not his people to control.
Very much Pelosi energy.
Yeah. And so right now where we're at is that there are 2 different sides of the SDC. One that wants progress, people like me who want to run and who want to build a stronger Democratic Party. And then the Joe Reed stands, who basically just all they're out to do is maintain control. That's what they want. And they're ruling a kingdom of bones at this point. There's nothing left to the Democratic Party in Alabama, but they still have to maintain that control for some reason.
I wonder if they realize how much they've disenfranchised
This is the reason we're not getting anything done. We spoke at the last, part 1 of this episode. We talked a lot about the fact that we are blue dots by design. And this doesn't seem to be helping that. We've got the Republicans already working against us. We don't need our own party working against us as well.
And I made a point to write this down. Basically, on a practical level, if the SDC is functioning, it can help recruit candidates and support local county parties, provide resources that make competitive races possible, right? But if it's dysfunctional, every single Democrat in Alabama feels the effects immediately. There's candidates like Alex don't stand a chance if they don't get any help from the Democratic Party. I've spoken to candidates running, and the Democratic Party here in Alabama is actively working against them. for some reason, and it's causing people to lose faith in the process, in the entire party, and creates a feeling of hopelessness.
It feels like they stack their deck too in candidates when they're not supposed to, right out of the gate, the second that they announce, without making it a fair, even level playing field. But it feels like we're all fighting against each other, or people just are so apathetic that it's just sat here and just squandered away. And I can see why we never have a Democrat on the ballot. I can see why that doesn't happen.
What's super frustrating in my comment section anytime I speak out against Alabama is people from both sides of the fight, both Democrats in other states or Republicans here in Alabama. Well, if you don't like it, just leave. Just leave.
Then what does that fix? That fixes
Yeah.
nothing. Same as like people who protest vote. Yeah, well, like fixes nothing if you decide to disengage.
Why should I have to leave my home? You know what I mean? Like, I love my home. I love this state. This is where I grew up. I love it here. I want to see it be better.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they work to keep us so poor.
The living down here and with real estate prices, I can't afford to move anywhere else either.
To convince people unless they're working themselves to the bone. And that's where I was the past couple years before I got into this. I was so keyed in to if I just busted my rear end and I gave up a lot of time with my boys, I gave up a lot of time as a person, as a wife, just a lot of things. If I focused on my career and I just doubled down and I worked those 60, 70-hour weeks and I had to base myself and I do anything and everything that I'm going to make it. We're finally going to have a home. We're finally going to have these things. And just to watch it crumble away was just, I can't even imagine coming out fresh out of school with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and feeling this sense of hopelessness that I'm at now. But I think we're in a kind of our weird, like, COVID era where people just lost their jobs, so they're stuck at home or they're homeless now, which is even more dystopian. But they're having to focus on this stuff. They can't just say, well, I'm not political. You better be.
Everything is political.
Everything at this point is political.
Not a differences in policies anymore either. It's not, yeah.
I work in real estate, but Catherine, why do you got to bring politics up? Because the economy is very important.
You're in sales. Like, people aren't buying shit.
Yeah.
They can't get approved and don't have jobs.
Afford homes. Like,
I would love to sell my home and just leave Alabama. That would be fantastic. But nobody's going to buy my house. Their houses sit on the market for months now because people can't afford to buy houses. Like, do you have new house money just sitting around?
well, not to mention we can't afford to. I mean, I've looked at like I said, my family's in New England, and right after the election, I definitely looked into moving up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at it, I was like, what I could. First of all, in Alabama, I gotta say we have the lowest property taxes anywhere in the country. The property taxes in Massachusetts would be more than what my mortgage payment is right now. The whole idea of if you don't like it, just leave. Well, if you don't like it, just leave. If you don't like this country progressing forward and accepting people of other nationalities, why don't you leave?
Like, either get out of my way or I'm going to go through you.
Yeah. Why don't you leave if you don't like it here? You're the one who has been so butthurt over the last decade of progress being made. You're the ones who think that Obama was the one who divided the country only because he was a black man who was a president. Like, if you don't like it, leave.
What do you think needs to happen for change? What needs to change? Is it just the bureaucracy? Is it just the infighting?
Kind of all of it. Transparency, first off. People need to know what the SDEC is and how to get involved.
I didn't even know it existed. Before all this, I didn't know how any of this worked.
I found out this year.
These are elected positions, are they not?
They are, yeah. I'm hoping my name is going to be at the very bottom of the ballot in my voting district come the Democratic primaries. And if nobody else runs against me, then it's mine. And that's how a lot of these things happen too, is most of them are uncontested. People don't have to campaign for them. They just pay the fee and get on the ballot. And if you don't know how to do that, you don't know where these meetings are, you don't even know the SDEC exists, then how is anything going to change? Our leadership clearly is not prioritizing unity and improvement in Alabama over their sense of power, which is so frustrating.
My understanding how it works is, you know, in the state, you have your counties, and every county should have its own executive committee, which is made up of people who are elected, so the board, but then the voting members are typically pulled from every county commission districts. Like Baldwin County, we have 4. And those are clearly outlined based on, you know, actual voting commission districts. So when we talk about getting involved locally, that's what we mean is find your county executive committee, find your actual local commission district, see if they have somebody there. Because sometimes they just may need some people and get involved there. But yeah, it's good to kind of know that structure because I didn't even know that existed.
And what's so funny is essentially during the changes that they voted on in the bylaws, they made it so that rather than quorum being the entire body, including those caucuses, quorum was 40% of just the elected. So that's leaving out the Native American voices. She was very upset about that. It's leaving out the Black Youth Caucus, it's leaving out the LGBTQ caucus. So it's yeah, and essentially we just need people to start showing up to their local meeting.
I would say it sounds like some of this was triggered by people just not even showing up to the state. They get voted in and then they're just a no show.
Yeah, I understand. Traveling to Montgomery for me is not easy, even though it's just a couple of hours away. The meeting starts so early that I have to leave the night before because there's no way I'm waking up in time, get a hotel room, and then wake up, go to this, and then drive 2 hours. It's not convenient.
That's not even counting if you find out in time. So knowing when these are happening so you can plan accordingly, especially most people don't realize we're not all retired. If you want young ones, you have to accommodate for the ones who are working. You have to start doing things on an actual cadence that makes sense.
Yeah, super luckily, the state one happens on a weekend because it's usually like Friday night they do some things and then Saturday they do some other stuff. So we only go to the meetings on Saturday because those are the ones that I know are open to the public. But the only reason we know about them is because we have people who are part of the SDEC who feed us this information. I didn't record the video in my TikTok of the meeting. Somebody sent that to me to make sure it got out, that people know what's happening. So there are people within SDEC who need help and need voices and need votes to be able to be successful.
So what you're saying is progressives,
Yeah.
especially.
Even if you feel like you're on the fringe and you're not part of the Democratic community or that you have a umbrage with them and kind of some of their ties, especially at the national level. I know that being involved here and caucusing with the Democrats and coming in, being the change I want to see makes a difference. And that's what I think we need people to re engage with.
And we have to work within the system if we're going to reform and change it for the better.
Exactly. And we need more people who are actual progressives who are actually working towards progress in Alabama. I have never identified as a Democrat. I am a dues paying member of the Democratic Party. I am a democratic socialist. I am very, very progressive. But the Democratic Party, especially here, has let so many of us down that why do we just keep letting them let us down instead of joining them and lifting the whole party up?
Be the change you want to see, you know, and like Kat said, let's work with what we have before we just light it on fire or just completely disengage.
Lighting it on fire and just burning the whole system down, that needs to be a last resort.
As fun as it sounds, as much as I would love to do that.
Revolutions are not fun. And I think a lot of people have this really romanticized vision of it because of like movie, especially. This isn't Les Mis. We're not all going to walk down the street, sing a song in unison, behead the king, behead the people that are oppressing us, and then we all just move on about our lives as if nothing happened and everything has changed for the better. That's not real.
I never understood brothers against brothers until this election. And now I see that if there is a revolutionary war, I will actively be fighting against my own family member. And not fighting as in the arguing we do over Thanksgiving dinner. There will be bloodshed and my family members will die or I will die. And I don't want that for anybody.
Like, we don't want to see the whole system just burn to the ground. We've got to work within the system we have if we're going to change it for the better with the least amount of casualties.
So, how can people get involved? What would be your first steps, in getting involved?
I would say try to find out when your local meetings are. Start showing up at your local meetings. Become a dues paying member of the Democratic Party. How can you get involved in the SDC? You can't. Not very easily, and it's by design. I'll post things on my TikTok as I hear about them. I'll talk about meetings as I hear about them, but there's no real easy way to follow the SDC or what they're doing.
So, what I'm hearing from you is get involved locally and make your connections to people who are currently keyed in and connected, and then can pass that down. So, that's that first step. What can we do to start enacting change now?
Like, who do we call? Is this like calling your congressman?
There is a website where you can see who your SDC representatives are. And I'll try to get the website and send it to you for this. But essentially, you have representatives that you can call, that you can email, that you can put pressure on in the SDC. They don't make them easy to find, which again is by design. But yeah, I mean, you can put pressure, and the thing is, your board should know when those meetings are happening. They do find out when those meetings are happening. Build community with your local Democratic Party, even if you don't agree with everything they say. The blue umbrella is large and encompasses a whole lot of us.
And if we want to drag them more to the left and more progressive, we have to start now. Like, that's the first step. And that's always tell people it's like baking a cake. You don't just end up with a cake. That's what people want is instant gratification. They just want the cake. Unfortunately, that's not in the plans. You have to go and get the flour. You're going to have to get your sugar. You're going to have to get all your ingredients. You're going to have to build this batter, and then you're going to have to bake the batter, and then you're going to have a cake.
You might burn one or two. You might have a couple of fails, and then you've got.
But it's going to be a process, and it's going to be a long, hard process, but we're going to get there. But we have to have engagement, and that's kind of where I'm at.
And Alabama as a whole, and specifically the SDEC, it's going to change when regular folks like you and me kind of decide that politics isn't something that's happening to us. It's something happening around us, and we have the ability to help change and shape what is going on in our political system. My favorite sayings is the biggest voting block in Alabama are the non-voters.
I was doing some data work for our executive committee. Just amazed me when I was pulling data how many people just even signed up for our stuff that haven't voted in a few years. And I'm like, but why? It astounds me. What are your thoughts on a lot of the statewide candidates right now? As an individual, separating yourself from everything, like some of these larger candidates that are starting to roll out. And what are your thoughts there?
I mean, we got Tommy Tuberville as governor. I know you're really excited about that.
Oh, man.
Oh,
#1 fan, right?
I would rather, I need to watch my language. I would rather fist fight a raccoon in the back of a Waffle House parking lot than see that man become governor.
I want to cuddle a raccoon.
I do too. I don't want to fist fight a raccoon. That's
No, I'd have that thing eating fancy feast out of my hand in about 5 minutes.
So I think we have some really, really great candidates. I think we also have some long-term candidates that have announced that have been in the political game for a very long time.
Progressives versus the old guard.
That we're not just going to throw our hat into
Yeah.
milk toast because they'll win. Well, why are you going to vote somebody in that's just going to shoot you in the foot?
One thing I will say about, Doug Jones has done through his entering the, throwing his name in. There are people who are asking, where can I volunteer and get involved? There are people looking to find their local Democratic chapters. There are people who are actually paying attention to the other candidates now, too, not just him. There are people who are seeing Will Boyd for the first time. Brought interest to the race, and that's something that I will say I'm very excited to see because that is normally not the case in this state.
And that's what's a shame, though, is it shouldn't be a Doug Jones that gets Democrats to wake the hell up.
Like we said, we've got to work within the system that we have, and it's got to start somewhere. But at least having people excited and paying attention and feeling some hope.
Now, if he could give some of that attention down ballot, We have some great races that are happening down ballot.
And that's what primaries are for too anyway, is no matter how you feel about someone, you can go and support your thing. What I don't like to see though is DNC only throw their hat in if a specific
No, I
person
agree
runs.
with
And that right there is just, it's horrible to me.
Will Boyd should have been able to get the same amount of attention and the same amount of support as Doug Jones did.
So the SDC, Joe Reed specifically, is not a, there is a longtime feud there because Doug Jones is a Dixiecrat.
Well, that and he called out the Democrats saying that they didn't give him enough money for his campaign. And there was a lot of excuses on both sides. And that was because he aired their dirty laundry. You know, there's that pretense here in the South. You don't air your dirty laundry out. And that was like the supposedly big faux pas right there, was him calling a spade and whether they liked him or not, and not outright saying they sabotaged me because I'm a Dixiecrat, but saying you didn't fund me and you're mismanaging the money is the stab he took.
He was going to get probably the most support from the DNC as a whole in that time period because he was the deciding vote in the Senate during Trump's first term. So that was obviously, I mean, all eyes were on us. I also remember when they announced it in CNN, you could tell even Anderson Cooper was like, he won? Really? Like everybody, we were just all shocked that it even happened.
This is why if you notice, they've gotten stricter and stricter in Alabama with voter ID laws. It's none of this shenanigans that they say. They want to do it because black voters turn out. They just do. They vote blue.
They closed down DMVs,
Yeah.
especially in rural, poor counties.
Yeah. Harder to get an ID.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these counties, they still have the voting house, and it's just this little like 4-wall building with no air conditioning in it.
Voter suppression is so much more than just how gerrymandered Alabama is. It is in tons of things. You know, it is in closing down these DMVs and, you know, making voting impossible to get to, putting it in the middle of a work day. So many other ways we're being suppressed that gerrymandering is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And, you know, there's something I've always thought about, like Baldwin County, we kind of live in this weird bubble because we are a majority white county. Mm-hmm. And we haven't experienced all of those, you know, issues with shutting down DMVs and those kinds of things because, well, they don't want to lower, they want our votes because they want white people voting. But it's in these small rural counties and, you know, especially through the Black Belt where they have really, I mean, they're shutting down courthouses. They're shutting down, like they're making it to where DMVs are only open one day a week for 4 hours and stuff.
Yeah. They're making it really hard. And they've even done that over Mobile. Like Mobile, did you know they closed the DMVs like on Wednesdays?
Mm-hmm. There's one where you get your license renewed and you get your tags renewed. But if you need to get an Alabama ID, you haven't had one before, you have to go across town to a completely different one. They make it impossible.
I'm still trying to get my star ID because I don't have a birth certificate. I have a certificate of birth registration from the state of New York. I called the county where I was born and asked them, you know, it was like, hey, how can I get a copy? The woman was like, wait, what do you mean they won't accept your birth certificate? I said, they're telling me it's not a birth certificate, it's a certificate of birth registration. Like, they're telling me my mom should have filed it somewhere or done something. She's like, no, that's what we give you in the state of New York. That's your original. Alabama, for some reason, doesn't want to recognize my birth certificate as valid. Mm-hmm. So I'm having to go through all this rigmarole of getting a copy sent to me from New York that is, the woman even said, she goes, you realize that that's less secure than like the real one you have? I said, I know. I don't get it. So if I'm having that much of a headache just getting my ID.
The absolute insanity that happens around like why we are the way we are right now. And the most I can say to people is just don't get disenfranchised. I know it's so easy just to turn it all off and maybe it'll stop. No one's going to save you. We have to start working together. The old guard, guys, it is time to mentor. Let go. Channel your inner Elsa and let it go. Like, dead serious, don't, as much as I loved Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the fact that she got her 50th cancer and she stayed on when she should have stepped down, that left a hole. Let the new young ones cook, because right now what you're doing is not anything. We're not going where we're stagnant. Gotta let it go and step back and get the young ones in. You say you want the young ones, show them that you want them, and be accepting to who they are and their points of views, but young ones, don't get disenfranchised. Just keep fighting.
Force your way in through the doors if you have to. That's what I'm doing.
All right, so now it's time for everybody's favorite part of this podcast, the games.
Oh.
So we're going to play Would You Rather. So we'll start with an easier one. Turkey or the sides?
Sides.
Sides.
100%.
Yeah. It's like tapas almost. You could have a little bit of everything.
I could literally do without the turkey if it's just a plate of sides. I usually get some turkey, like I'll get a piece or two to like be polite.
If I eat turkey, I want the leg. I only eat dark meat, and I want the whole entire leg.
I strictly go to Thanksgiving for the casseroles and the mayonnaise-based salads. All right, this one's for you, Pixie. Would you rather spend 1 hour having to listen to Tommy Tuberville give you a lecture on Civil War history, or spend an hour listening to RFK Jr. talk about autism?
Oh.
No. Absolutely. It's the third option to just off myself. I honestly, give me an hour with Tommy Tuberville and let him try to lecture me, because I know I'm going to jail if RFK tries to talk about autism. I know I'm going to jail, and it's going to be for life. But I think I could tolerate him in his fantasy world for an hour. Tommy Tuberville in his fantasy world talking about God knows what.
The war of Northern aggression.
I would rather hear that for an hour from the man I hate most in this world than listen to RFK for even 5 minutes.
I cannot stand his voice.
I love when he's like, well, I had smallpox and I turned out just fine. I'm like, you were the picture of health, sir.
You had a brainworm, my friend.
Take your brainworm and go the hell home. You are not fine, sir.
I feel like the brainworm is just in control of everything.
At this point, it has to be.
It has to be. All right. Would you rather be able to listen to only your favorite album for the rest of your life, or never be able to listen to your favorite album again?
Never be able to listen to my favorite album again.
What about movie? Only be able to watch your favorite movie for the rest of your life, or
Never, because I have it all in my head. I can just replay everything in my head.
As far as movies go, I would much rather watch a variety than the one.
Yeah, because I went through that, having a child who is autistic and siblings who with special needs. If I had to watch Aladdin one more time, or Shrek, I had to hear Donkey one more freaking time, I was gonna lose it.
So for me, it was Sister Act and The Sound of Music. I made my parents listen because, like, we would pack up in the Suburban and drive up to Massachusetts every summer, and I would just watch those two movies on repeat over and over and over again. Now, granted, Sister Act does have a pretty banging soundtrack, so at least there's that.
Mine was Care Bears, Rainbow Bright, and Strawberry Shortcake movies. Those 3 movies I will watch on repeat.
I feel so old. All right, this is a really hard one. Would you rather have to sit through a Kid Rock concert with Lauren Boebert, or have to spend a night being Dee Dee for a white wine drunk Nancy Mace?
Give me Nancy.
I'm just saying that with Boebert, it's all about like what's your expectations. If you're expecting the Beetlejuice treatment,
Mace is like literally insane. Like, she is absolutely like one flew over those cuckoo's nest.
I don't know. I feel like she'd be like boo-hooing, like snotty crying,
starting fights and stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, at least Lauren Boebert, like,
only if I get to put her on World Star. I just don't think they'd allow that.
See, it's the Kid Rock concert that does it for me. Like, I will do a whole lot of things.
I went to an accidental Kid Rock concert lately.
Oh my God.
I remember when he was just kind of cool because it was like that kind of trashy early 2000s,
Oh yeah, I used to sing Kid Rock, and now I'd rather hit him in the face with a shovel.
My husband and I went to see Marcus King at Live at 5 in Fairhope, and a friend of ours was sitting up near the stage in one of the tents, and he texted Justin and said, "Hey, Kid Rock's here. You want to come say hi?" Justin was like, I'd rather not. So I had to sit there the entire time. I was like, please don't call him on stage. Please don't call him on stage. So they pulled him up to sing Ramblin' Man at the end. And I was just think, I was like, I can now say I've been to a Kid Rock concert. Damn it. But Nancy Mace, I could be seeing that person that, like, we've all had that drunk friend who is going to get everyone around them arrested.
Yeah, a lot of times that's me.
She's the one who's going to be like, I swear I can drive. I'm perfectly fine to drive. And, like, she's not.
If I'm the DD, like, I look for the silver lining in these, right? So if I'm the DD, I might have to fight her for the keys.
I did not think of that. Shove her and maybe like, oh, she fell. She was too drunk. She just fell.
Now we see why I am the drunk friend that gets everybody around them arrested, because I resort to violence.
Legitimately, like, I'm concerned for her mental health, honestly.
At this point, I'm concerned for a whole lot of their mental health, but she is an especially.
I think she broke a really long time ago, and part of me just, like, I look at these people as they sold their souls, and I can't imagine what it's like to look at yourself in the mirror every morning, knowing what you're doing, and knowing what you're ultimately doing to a bunch of people, and like, you got your Mike Johnson who was just, like, completely, like,
I think
unfazed.
they just don't possess empathy.
It's so weird though, because you can say that about the average Trump supporting Republican nowadays. Like, my dad, I haven't talked to him in over a year, but my dad was funny, witty, smart, empathetic, caring. So to see him now supporting what's happening is just insane to me.
All of us were raised in the church, and the Christianity I grew up with is not the Christianity we see at large now. And
I don't know. Kinda is, at least for Southern Baptists, it is.
okay, I grew up as a PCUSA Presbyterian, so I am very, and I had a liberal mother, and weirdly enough, my dad used to be the, like, Fox News watching, like, God, that man loved Bill O'Reilly. That Bill O'Reilly was his hero, but he's weirdly gotten more liberal as he's gotten older. I think when he broke his hip last year, 3 ghosts visited him when he was under or something. I don't know, but
I was raised, so my grandfather was a hellfire and brimstone Southern Baptist preacher. My uncle was an evangelical, trained by Joel Osteen's parents. My favorite fun fact about me, um, to tell people that my uncle was trained by Joel Osteen's parents
trained to do what?
to, to be an evangelist preacher. And so I grew up in a very, I listened to the words they were saying and like took them to heart. Whereas they don't seem to do that. So like, honestly, evangelicals radicalized me. Evangelicals taught me the kind, loving, our God is an awesome God. And then I saw their actions not aligning.
They tell us to love everybody and do that, and then when you do it, like, oh, no, no, not like that.
Well, the sheer fact that you know, they talk about Jesus Christ, and now when you talk to them, they're like, "Oh, Jesus would have been a socialist? No, we would have deported him."
So I recently rejoined X, and I've let my algorithm keep me on MAGA over there just because I want to see what they're saying. Mike Johnson posted on Thanksgiving a Bible verse, and it had something to do with, like, you were to loan money without interest or something like that. And I was like, this motherfucker has a lot of nerve voting against. Like, I was like, so how do you feel about student loan forgiveness, Mike?
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I'm saying, is they've cherry picked the Bible. I know it went off topic, but Nancy Mace, I guess, being DD, I wouldn't want to have to deal with her. It just doesn't. I would take the Kid Rock concert because I can zone myself out of something for 2 hours.
I can't.
Hell, I may even get white wine drunk on some of those hard seltzers they got, because Lord knows that's probably what's prevalent there is beer and hard seltzers.
Not even the good kind.
Those their hard seltzers taste like fruit farted in the same room as sparkling water.
Well, I also grew up, like, drinking just regular seltzer.
Yeah.
My mom, like, I wanted sodas as a kid, but she didn't want me drinking all the sugar. So she would do is add regular seltzer water to, like, juice and stuff. So, like, growing up, that was what I always drank. Or I went to my grandparents' house, they always had polar seltzers, the cranberry lime ones. So I grew up drinking. I love seltzers. Like, I could put away a case of White Claws.
I just don't know if I could handle Mace.
Yeah, I feel like she gets, like, really
Floppy.
she's the one who's gonna be like, you're gonna find her in the party crying in the pantry, like making a scene, breaking stuff.
And then she's gonna try to make out with you like all sloppily.
If I can bring earplugs, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like you're fully. This isn't just like an Uber driver situation. This is a like you got to.
Because yeah.
This is there's two levels of DD. There's the okay, I'll be over in a few minutes, be outside waiting for me, and then there's the like the best friend DD.
Yeah.
No, I might not. I mean, if I got to fight her for the keys, it would make it worth it.
Okay, there's the DD who is called by the person who needs the ride, and the DD who is called by other people to come pick them up. And that's the situation we're talking about, is the other people called the DD. Yeah.
Somebody come get her.
Oh my God. Somebody come get her.
She would get that drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's got to be off like Moscato.
All right. Okay. I changed my mind. Give me the Kid Rock concert, because at least that'll be over in a couple hours. Like,
All right. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube and want more information about us or ways to get involved, please visit our website at BamaBlueDots.com. And if you loved hanging out with Pixie, make sure to follow her on TikTok at
GlyterPixie. That's GLYTER Pixie.
All right. Bye, y'all.